Welcome to the weekly macro discussion from Proflex. So I think while we are again trying this on the YouTube live, hopefully this works. So add your comments in the chat in directly on YouTube, and hopefully this will work out that way. So again, as I said, I think we have been talking about this at various forums. If you're part of the Proflex WhatsApp group and so on, and also I think we have been communicating if you are Proflex All Access or managed account customers. So let us dwell directly into this. Right, it's been an unprecedented run in the markets. Iran war as it is coming supposedly to an end. I think the last week when we started, it was all about how the ceasefire did not, that the negotiation talks did not work out. On the other hand, market was positively surprised with the de-escalations. And I think that is what is playing out. And I would share the chart, and I think what we want to today discuss is how it is once in, I would say, it's like it's never happened before. The things which are happening right now, the kind of move we are seeing right now, and why it is unprecedented. Many reasons. I think if as we have been discussing in the macro channel and so on, the biggest thing which we are watching is that this has been never been a consecutive run which we are seeing in Nasdaq or in S&P 500, which has without a correction. And more importantly, we went from if you were like follow the technical indicators like RSI and so on, it went from oversold to overbought in within 2 weeks without a single correction. So if you see, like a lot of people say, oh, we had a V-shaped recovery previously many times, but if you see here the run up, and even including the kind of Liberation Day, which was a huge run up, it came with pretty much quite a few corrections, and it was not a straight line move up. Why it is so unique is because it's mostly momentum chasers, I would call it, the CTA buying. There's a lot of short covering which started the rally because, of course, the market was very short going into the whole negotiation phase where the ceasefire was announced, and market had very little hope. So this is where I think the market has kind of overshot in terms of buying. Yes, it was one of the most hated rallies, but on the other hand, what it also means is that right now we have a lot of as we call it, as like a lot of analysts are showing how much CTA money is coming in, how much of short covering is coming in, and so on. So there is a huge position being built. And most of these things are very, very leveraged in the sense that we do believe that it's kind of getting from oversold to frothy very fast. So that's where the situation is. If you look at some of the individual stocks also, as we always see, there's always a run up in some very similar charts you will see on Nvidia or Navago of the world. You will see, but on the other hand, you will see that some other stocks like Tesla is still way below its all-time high. You see Microsoft is still just recovering. Meta is still yet to catch up. So there is a big divergence we have been talking about since start. Like even Apple is not yet there at the all-time high. So you will see that yes, there's potential, but what is happening is market is chasing these AI leaders again. We had this whole further TSMC earnings further created this optimism, but what it also resulted in is this kind of a very, very overbought market right now. And as we said, right, means that this is where it gets little tricky. Means we, of course, if you are in the market, it is something you have to be aware of. We have also broken out from this previous trend here. But I think what we are right now talking about is the biggest market issue is whether we take a break here. There are multiple things which are happening. I would say macro-wise, we still have concerns on inflation. The rate cuts are still gone out of the window. Like if you look at the probabilities, they are still very low for near term. So there's nothing changing right now. His market was pricing in 1 or 2 rate cuts earlier. Right now, let's come back to where we are in all-time high this time versus last all-time high. We were looking towards reduction in interest rates. Inflation was under control, even though inflation came out good. But there is always this concern of what is really going on with oil, what is going on with supply chains, and so on. So there is definitely some concerns there, which my market is not convinced on. On the other hand, because of flipping from oversold to overbought, I think this is where now we have to watch out how it resolves. So in general, I would say, what are the next steps? The next steps are, of course, we have to first of all see where it consolidates, what are the levels, because right now we are just going one way up. And the second part is we need to figure out the earnings, because now there was a stage when we were talking about how the earnings basically are, we are going into very, very high, good valuations. The stocks were in a very decent place after the, we can call it the crash due to Iran war. Right now we are entering this whole earning cycle in a very different mode very quickly. Like within 2 weeks, as we have flipped from oversold to overbought, except for, of course, the oversold stocks, as we discussed, it's still a K-shaped recovery. But I would say that is where the key thing is. So those are something which we are going to be watching, and we will see how that goes. And I would say we can start looking at how the earnings impact this market. But on the other hand, I would say right now, more or less, it is kind of a momentum rally, and we are waiting for these things to improve. Now, the other thing which changes in this rally is the Bitcoin. I would say the Bitcoin has finally broken out of this 75,000 zone, which is very promising. I think gold is still struggling to get to those highs. So this is again a kind of we are seeing a different kind of a market from the previous one. The silver is also going very slow in this rally. The gold and silver are even though after the correction it is kind of picking up, but we are not seeing that kind of move up which we used to see. So I think that is where the market situation is, and we are going to continue to monitor this. So in case you are right now wondering, what to watch out for, I would say watch out for, first of all, whether how do we resolve this overbought conditions? How do we before the earnings? Of course, there's still time. I would say there's another week or so when the actual critical earnings start showing up, and from there we can start looking at how this market. Before that, I think if the overbought situations is resolved, we will have further moves coming in from here. The few things which other than that we are tracking is there is quite a few AI sector news coming around. Like of course TSMC and the chip rally is still already playing out because of great expectations on them. On the other hand, there is this whole concern around hyperscalers. Are they able to keep the support? Like, are they able to scale up the data centers? There's a lot of mixed news coming in terms of what is the impact of energy availability. There are a lot of state legislations which are happening, which are against the data centers. A lot of states, like 12 states in US, have come out and started, slowing down the data center development. So there's a lot of stuff which will be, analysts will be talking about as these earnings come out for the big tech. And I think that would be also critical going into next couple of weeks. So again, as I said, overall, we are talking about pretty much V-shaped recovery, which was actually, I would call it a J-shaped recovery because we have actually gone way above the previous all-time high. On the other hand, this is kind of very difficult to sustain with the kind of speed it has gone with. It has no correction at all. There is hardly any there's hardly any pullbacks and so on. So we will just want to make sure that people are aware of that this is very unique, and it's not something which you can even compare. Like this week, we shared a couple of days ago how we were already at the 100th percentile of the move, and right now this move is way beyond that. So that is something which we expect market to probably not be able to keep going in the way it is. So short term, there will be definitely some hiccups in terms of the overbought conditions, and then we look at how markets continue from there. All right, so I don't think so if you have any questions, you can post it here. Otherwise, I think we will be continuing this discussion over the macro channels. So feel free to add those, and we will be discussing further on WhatsApp as more and more people show up in terms of how you feel about it. Like, we'd love to hear feedback from people on how you feel about this rally. Means, of course, it is not something which we have like this market was caught surprise, to be frank. Almost when we talk to investors and so on, almost everybody is waiting for a correction, and this is where I think the biggest opportunity is in terms of how do you pick the stocks which are not yet moved up. There are certain stocks which have led this rally. It's a very, very thin rally in terms of the breadth of the market. And when the correction happens, you will see that there will be opportunity in that space. So, and also, as I said, right, there are a lot of pieces like when you look at precious metals, whether you look at Bitcoin and so on. And those are some things which we expect markets to improve on. All right, so I'll just quickly check. Yeah, so if I think we can keep it short today if there are no other questions. So we'll continue next week as we go along, and I think we will be talking to you in in our WhatsApp channel and user forums. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining.